Well, welcome back to Show Me the Money Rugby League TV. Once again, myself, Mick the GameCaller, Gledel, Joe Me the Money, and our betting guru, Jimmy the Mystic Mac is here. So, we've given him that moniker. So yeah, this is a bit of a show about IMG and the rebranding and the transformation of the sport of rugby league. There was another big meeting in Manchester on Thursday where the clubs were asked to vote. There's 37 clubs, as we know, and there was 32 who said yes, 5 who either said no or abstained from voting. Now, we know Batley and Dewsbury both abstained. We know Keighley have come out, the only club so far who have said no, and obviously I've tried to chase who the other two are, but it's a bit futile when you think about it, because 32 have said thumbs up yes, so it is happening. So yeah, this is what has been voted through, so this is now where the sport of rugby league is. We did a show about this after the first meeting a couple of weeks ago in Manchester. This was the follow-up meeting where obviously the vote has been cast and IMG RFL gauged the support or favour for the transformation of rugby league. So this is the plan. IMG call it reimagining rugby league. I think it's more like resurrecting and trying to save the sport than reimagine it, but I guess they like using the buzzwords, so reimagining, resurrecting, it's all the same. So this is what they are going to do. There's going to be a repositioned calendar which is going to incorporate regular peaks of interest and a compelling season climax. So the calendar is going to be aligned with the global game to facilitate an international window in October and incorporate a mid-season international. So following on from that initial meeting in Manchester at that posh hotel, lovely hospitality by the way there, they were basically saying that there's too many games. We need more meaningful games. We need less of the loop fixtures. We need less of Wigan versus St Helens 4 or 5 times a season. We need 2 regular season games, and then you might meet each other in the Challenge Cup. You might meet each other in the playoffs or the final. So,
I've got a quick question on that, Mick. After the varying success on the ticket sales or the not success on the ticket sales of this international and the World Cup and the way it's been so far, do you reckon their view of that might have changed? You know what I mean, adding that mid-season international.
No, because
would this have any effect on?
No, I don't think it does, because I think the ticket prices, as we've said on the World Cup full 80 minute show, they're ridiculously high. People are suffering fuel poverty. People are in times of hardship. I myself the other day put £20 on my gas meter and it took 18 quid for debt, and because I've not had the gas on, it's charging me £1 something a day, even if I don't use it. So I've decided enough's enough. I will go through winter without having any heating on. To be fair, I'm never at home anyway, but that's beside the point, you know. So if that's doing that for me, how do families afford to go to World Cup games with those prices? But look, this is about IMG. I don't think there'll be any change, because what IMG wanted was they want the season to start in February with those Challenge Cup games, Challenge Cup final in May. Magic's gone, so there's no, we can only afford Magic or Challenge Cup, which is what the feedback from IMG has been. There's been too much dilution, like Summer Bash is going for Championship, because they want everybody to go to that Challenge Cup final. Because you take away your Magic weekend, you've only got your Challenge Cup final, your internationals and your grand final. I think that fundamentally is a very smart move by IMG. So the season will start in February, it will finish at the end of September. You've then got October for your internationals. Ashes tours coming back. That will sell. That will sell. And I tell you something, Joe, I know I'm very privileged to have access and accreditation, through the RFL, through the International Rugby League for the World Cup. But if you're telling me, if at Hull FC's KCOM Stadium or the MKM Arena, I've got to pay 75 quid for a seat on halfway, but it is a full-blown Ashes series, you're paying it. But you're not going to be paying 65, 70 quid to watch New Zealand versus Lebanon or Jamaica versus Ireland on halfway, unfortunately.
Totally agree.
So that is what they're going to do. I've spoken to IMG and I says, well, this is obviously heavily reliant on cooperation from your NRL counterparts, and that is something that they are trying to work on. I still think there'll be a few hiccups and bumps and bruises along the way. I'm not saying for 1 minute you're going to get the full support of the NRL, who are going to say, right, we're going to move our season, so we have all these internationals. I still think there'll still be a little bit of a bumpy ground, but
at
that
least for trying
is what they're trying to do.
They're trying to get it.
They're trying to do it, which then means November, December, 2 months off. Because if you think about the Rugby League season now, I know many clubs have the Boxing Day game. Bradford, for instance, Leeds, Wakefield, they all have Castleford, Featherstone. They all have that Boxing Day game to bring in necessary income. But if you're a player playing in this Rugby League World Cup, and like we say, we mentioned Jamaica and some of those Keighley players, York players, Bradford players, you're not finishing till the back end of November. And then you're back in on Boxing Day, and then your pre-season starting. The season is too long. Effectively, what IMG was saying is, you might have 4, 5, 6 weeks at most. I know this is a World Cup year, but that is too long. The players' bodies, and you wonder why there's all these injuries and stuff. So there is a huge focus on player welfare as well with this reimagination of the calendar. The next point is participation in the top tier. It's going to be based on a grading system, which will look at the financial sustainability, and also it's encouraging investment into clubs. So this is where it gets interesting, because I don't think people fully understand what's at stake here. Category A clubs will be guaranteed participation in the top tier. IMG told me on Thursday there's no more than 5 or 6 Category A clubs. That is what they're anticipating based on their current grading criteria. I know they're still working through it and finalising it, but they've run some early models, and they are saying there is no more currently than 5 or 6. That might change, but they don't expect it to change in the next 12 to 18 months. So we're going to be going into 2024 when this all comes live, knowing there's going to be 5 or 6 guaranteed, the rest is open. So it's going to be the Category B clubs where the fun and the drama is going to be, because the Category B clubs will be assessed annually, and it will go down on a ranking system. So the highest ranking, B1, B2, B3. So let's just make it nice and easy. The 6 Category A clubs, we don't need to name them, but the 6 Category A clubs, that means in 2024, when they do the grading, there'll be 6 Category B clubs who will join the A's for 2025. So it's envisaged the grading is going to take place. So this is going to give the clubs a little bit of an insight into where they are, to give them a chance to improve. Because what IMG is saying currently is, if we were going to run the criteria and the grading now, there's 1 Super League club that will be out and 1 Championship club that will be in. Listen, we can speculate. Is it Toulouse? Is it York? Is it London? We know IMG want that London focus. We know the big fans of Newcastle as well. So, it'd be futile to speculate. But that's the warning shot to those Super League clubs, because
don't rest on your laurels.
6 of them, Jimmy, know they are an A. The rest of them know they are a B, and they're going to be joining potentially another 5 or 6 B clubs
who are currently
in the Championship. And the facts are, one of those is currently in the ranking above a current Super League club. So that's a warning shot. And anybody who says to me promotion and relegation scrapped, that's bollocks. That's bollocks, because it's not scrapped. Basically, if you're a club and you invest adequately, and we're talking about financial sustainability, we're talking about academy junior development, we know there's going to be the homegrown quota in, so clubs who have homegrown players will get rewarded, they'll get more points. So the clubs that have the crowds, the stadium facilities, and it's all about driving standards.
And I think they haven't so far, and I think we do need to hammer home that one of the categories we believe, and I think is a fact, is going to be on-field performance. So yes, of course, if you come top, you might not, in 2025, you might not be guaranteed promotion, But that means that your category of on-field performance, you'll get for 3 points, or at least for 2 points. So then as long as you've got 3 points for your other categories or 2 points in some, you're going to have a much stronger case. It's not going to be that a team that come 8th in the championship end up going up. You know, it's not going to be as far-fetched as that. I've had friends of mine messaging me because it actually made Sky Sports News, didn't it? It's quite rare we get much coverage on Sky Sports News. And in our football group, you know, what's going on? They've scrapped promotion. Where's it? What's happened to this? Where's the merit and all that? But you are still going to have to perform in the championship if you want a chance of going up.
Correct.
You know, and that's very important. I think everyone will agree that that should be a big factor. And then it comes down to, as we've said for a long time, how do they weight geographical location, potential of getting over 5,000 fans, junior youth development, on-field performance? You know, do they get the balance to the level that most of us hope they do? So you are rewarded.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's all about driving standards. Look, IMG would love it. You know, when we were shown, members of the media, the yearly sort of plan, they're going to start at 12, then it's to 14, and then if clubs get their house in order and they have the facilities and they grow, this is not just growing the clubs, it's growing the sport. Ideally, IMG said we want to get to a point where maybe if we have 16, we've got 2 conferences of 8. Yeah. And we can look at that as a top tier.
And they're probably hoping
growing the money.
In 10 years' time, they're saying any club that is category 8 is in that top flight. So they'll probably be hoping in 6 years' time, we've got 11 teams who are category A. And then there's a few Bs who are fighting it out. And then in 10 years' time, we might have 14 grade A's, and we might go, right, or 15, and they'll go, we'll have a 15 division, like NRL, you know, a bigger division.
What they're saying is they're going to eventually conference it up.
Break it up.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, the loyal, die-hard English football fans, it's come as a complete shock, hasn't it? And it sounds bad because there's no promotion relegation.
Yeah,
that's what sport's all about.
Yeah.
Most other leagues in the world actually don't have promotion relegation. Football does. Most other sports, basketball, and I know I go America a lot. If, like you said, NRL in Australia, most other sports don't actually use the promotion relegation. The best sport in the world is football because there's that many teams, that much competition, and that much. I think that model works for football. For rugby league, for the viewers, it's not working. It's not working. Promotion relegation. The same teams come up and down every year. The same teams win we have the same 3 teams win every year, so the fact that the same competitions are going to be taken out, it's not competitive anyway. The same 3 teams win every year. Fact, doesn't it? I think that's fact. Same 3 teams win every year. It's pick whichever one out of the 3 is the strongest that year.
There's only 4 that have ever won it.
Ever. So in
25 years.
So at this point, if the leagues, if they're saying, it's going to reduce competition, it won't, because the competition's already that reduced. If you're into Super League, 3 teams are going to win it, and the same, it's between 2 or 3 teams that go up and down. It's just the same every year, unless there's a team that collapses, no offence, like Bradford did, or certain teams of unless there's a collapse, it's the same couple going up and down. So if you look at other sports, let's go NRL, what this allows is the relegation, because the difference between the money between a championship and a Super League, the money they get's that different. That if they get relegated, if teams know if they get relegated, it could be the end of them as a team. It's not like football where you can go, with some cases in football, it does, I think Sunderland collapsed pretty big, didn't they? But in general, if you're in championship, you still survive and you've still got a very strong fan base. In rugby league, it drops. So you need the Super League there, so you've got that bottom ground, so you don't have the fear of if we lose this, we're going to collapse as a club. We need to support these clubs and give them as much love, and we need to help grow and help them develop. If they then take the answer like they did 6 years ago, where they take the easy route, don't spend the money, don't do that, which hopefully this licensing is going to get rid of, and that you'll have to fit into them models. If they did it like they did 6 years ago, then yes, the game's gone completely. But IMG is hoping by putting these things in place is to not let them do that. Is they have to spend in certain areas, and they have to grow the game, which hasn't been attempted. Well, it has been attempted, but it's not been successful in 10 years. So I think this is a brilliant step. It will improve competition because there'll be more teams that can build up to grow to win. And so I've just been seeing on Twitter, I think, I'd say old Rod stood in that again and say, "Oh, it's against any it's against any."
But I think that was my point. I think they need to understand, and maybe they do, and we've just still got that opinion, and each to their own. But I think let's take Bradford and Keighley to use them as an example. Keighley fans might be concerned that, and clearly as a club they are, they've had a great year. They're kicking on. They feel and believe that on the field they have got a chance of gaining promotion under the old system in the next handful of years. What they're worried about now is, because they're in the same postcode as Bradford, and if they do it as specific as postcodes, and Halifax not too far away, they're worried that they might do everything they can on the field and then they don't get rewarded for that. But hopefully, my thought of it is, if they do manage to come second in the championship, it's still worth it because you might get the big points in that on-field category. So as long as you've got even if you mark down location-wise, they might only get 1 out of 3 for location. Because you said it might be out of 3, didn't you?
Yeah, well, it was this when I asked. Obviously, the grading and how it's going to be weighted hasn't been revealed yet.
Yeah.
But IMG was saying, well, they'd look to try and simplify it because one thing IMG have said is, this is going to be transparent. So how the grading is, it's going to be there in the public domain.
Yeah.
So at the end of 2023, when obviously the dummy run is complete, clubs will know where they are
and what the categories are. And for me, initially, I don't like the idea of it being out of 3 because I think that's a very small scale. But let's say it's out of 5 and Keighley might only get 1 for geographical location or 2 at best. They might be able to get themselves 4 on-field performance if they win the championship. Yeah. They've shown that in the crowds that they can be a 5, 6, 7,000 supported club. So they might get 3, 4 in that category. So again, as long as, even if you don't get guaranteed, you can still get high points in that category, and then just make sure in the others you're ticking the boxes. And if it is the suitable scale, and all things are factored in, I'd still... I don't want to see, I don't think anyone does, if a team consistently does well, but can't get up into that top flight, you'd think, well, this might need looking at. But I believe that if a team is knocking on that door, if someone wins the second tier 3 years in a row and doesn't get up to the top tier because they're too low in the other categories, then either the club have got to hold their hands up and say, well, we're not doing enough in the other categories, or maybe they do need to look at changing it slightly. Because I do feel sorry for the clubs that can't score any points in geographical location, because that's one category no one can do anything about. It's also one category that Newcastle and London get full points in.
Correct.
So that's what I've been stuck on for ages. Crowds, clubs can definitely work on building crowds.
But we don't know what is good. We don't know which part of the criteria is going to be weighted. I'd personally like to see your development of players and performance on the field, because I think the two go hand in hand. Because crowds, for some reason in rugby league, we just obsess about crowds. As you quite rightly said, Jimmy, before we started recording this, York have not got past that. Yes, they've had the big games against Bradford where there's been 3, 4, 5,000, but consistently York haven't broken that 3,000 mark yet. So York, despite the stadium, despite some of the homegrown players that are coming through and their performance on the field, they're going to be let down.
But I think that they'll say with York, well, let's say York could do very well in all the other categories and they get up there, they will be saying, look, obviously, you've struggled or you're not anywhere near some of the top teams in Super League, but you have now got a year or two. If you can get to that 7,000 mark, then you don't need to worry about that category anymore. If they have 2 years in the top flight and they're still knocking around 2,500 fans, when they reassess, by then you've got Bradford who are back up to 6,000 with a new stadium and doing really well, they'll be like, look, it's dead simple now. Bradford have overtaken you. You've had a chance to build your crowds, you've not been able to, so now we're flipping them around. And it's that constant assessment with transparency, which will be great. as long as they get the weighting correct, and we'll see.
Yeah, I can't wait for when they actually put the grading out and how it's going to be weighted and and how club, because you can almost second guess then where they're looking and where IMG believe, is it crowds, is it stadium facilities, is it the academy, is it homegrown players?
I don't know how much they can weight performance on the pitch. I don't want to be the dour to the... Not the dour, because it's just... I guess this is just...
performance on the pitch has to be...
It has to be one of the strongest. But if you think about it, as I said in my thing, if you're in Championship and you're getting... that only depends in the Championship. What happens if you're Super League and come bottom? Wakefield would still beat, mate, apart from Leeds this extraordinary year where Derek spent all his... But apart from that, Wakefield every year, or let's say Toulouse, Wakey, but hell, Warrington, shouldn't, but you know what I mean, one of the bottom three, they still beat every Championship club easily, so there's only so much you can weigh.
But I do think that the category, I think, let's say every category is out of 5. I think the teams that come in the bottom few of Super League will still get a 4 for on-field performance.
Yeah, but they can't do that, because then what do the top teams get?
The top
all just get 5s?
No, the top in the Super League?
The top 8 in Super League get 5s automatically.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, that'll be easy. But it's for teams in the hard bit is, how do you compare low top flight to the top teams in the bottom one? So
I don't think they can do it on-field. I don't think the on-field performance can be the strongest indicator.
No, it's not going to be. They're all going to be. Every category will be out of 5, let's say. So then on-field, if you get 3 out of 5 in that, that'll be added to what?
We're talking about weighting.
We don't. They've said to Mick that each category will be out of 3. That's what they're thinking. So they will add up what you get in each category together.
I'm saying, but if it's weighted, we've mentioned the word weighted.
There is going to be certain categories that are weighted, which IMG ultimately decides.
I'm saying on-field performance, I don't think can be weighted heavily.
So you think that? You think that
these criteria, Jimmy, they're all not just going to be.
Yeah, we're being hypothetical.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's all the same. No, there'll be some that have extra weight and extra.
Right. So one category might be out of 8. You might be able to get 8 points for geographical location.
We don't know, but
all we know is only 3 points for stadium.
Yeah, and all this will get announced. Like I say, we are kind of second guessing.
And I'm just saying, my point is, I don't think it can be that weighted highly on field performance, because if we are going the franchise route, not that it doesn't matter, it should always matter for competition, but it kind of takes away the point of franchising, because the point of franchising is that as long as you're doing everything right in our building, let's say, as in other sports, when you bleed through the younger players, you will naturally do worse for a year or two, unless them younger players are just absolute megastar. I guess in like Penrith, but if you're going in other sports where they bleed through the younger players and they're not the quality of the 29-year-olds, but hopefully will be, I don't know how much it can be weighted on that. That's my...
I see what you mean. I do think it should be and will be one of the key categories, along with stadium, location, and... Well,
I don't think it can do that, because it goes against some of the core reasons of franchising.
Yeah, but I think what it's doing is it's making sure if they didn't have that category being relatively weighted, and I certainly don't think it should be the top weighted category. But if it isn't, then that does allow clubs to go, well, we don't need to really... It goes against what you've been saying for a few weeks. We don't really need to worry about performance, because we've got...
I'm not too bothered about performance.
In the short term?
No, not at all. No offence in franchising. I'm not that bothered about performance. As long as they're doing everything else. Right. As long as they're doing amazing marketing, bringing crowds in. Obviously... Performance does help crowds, so I'm not going to be that naive, but as long as they're doing stuff in the community, they're bleeding through young players, that's just my opinion. I think as long as they're doing everything else, I think they just need to be held accountable for everything rather than performance. If they have a bad year, they bleed through 2 halfbacks at 19 years old, that could become the level of any the top Super League players.
So if there's 5 categories, you're saying potentially on field you would have as one of the lowest weighted ones, whereas some people like Rod would have it as the highest rated one.
By a man,
and I'm probably somewhere in the middle,
I would have it weighted that highly, as long as they get everything else
right.
marketing investment in the infrastructure, investment in stadium investment in grassroots. As long if they do all that,
because
I'll be
then
like,
performance will follow at some point. Yeah.
And it just helps grow the game. I think the overall issue is it's not we've spent too long worrying about each individual club's about it. This is about the game. It's got that serious of an issue. It's about the game rather than the club itself.
But and ultimately, if there's a club that is in the top flight that has 5 years of getting hammered every week, they will. There is a point where they'll be like, well, your on-field performance is so low. That's why,
like the salary cap, maybe points. if they're so low on the salary cap and they're paying 27-year-olds just to be there, I think.
Yeah, but there'll be a salary cap base. But
I don't mind if they go, okay, 2 19-year-olds as like, let's say even like they get a 19-year-old David Fafita as the Dragons did, where they went, okay, 19, let's pay him 1.3 million for 5 years. Let's let him be the superstar he's meant to be, and that's what they've done. I wouldn't mind that, because then it gives young players a chance to earn money and be successful. But then you might be worse for a year or two. But once he hits 27 and he's got another 2 years on his contract, or 26 and he's in his prime, they're going to do well. They're going. So it's I guess that's
just
my
a lot longer
term.
It. Yeah, it makes sense. I totally get it.
So there's going to be an expansion strategy to develop and support women's rugby league, and also girls' rugby league, and growth in new markets for women's rugby league. So I know we're talking about the men's top tier and the middle tier and the bottom tier, if that survives. But they also wanted to focus heavily on women's and build on, the Women's Super League, which has grown and gone from strength to strength in recent seasons. We mentioned this last time, the participation of clubs outside the UK is going to be capped at 2. And there will be additional standards to support domestic growth. They want to grow the game here, as well as allowing a Toulouse or a Catalans in. That's why it's going to be capped at 2. This is probably the interesting bit, like you say, Jimmy. We've focused a little bit in the full 80-minute show about how the Rugby League World Cup could have sold this better, going into universities, students. Operations at the RFL are going to be centralised for the first of a time, and this is going to have a number of benefits which will allow the RFL to maximise and be very efficient in their marketing and bringing in, like you say, the finances from the ticket sales, through ticketing, digital infrastructure, digital media. Everything is going to be centralised, so I'm led to believe the clubs will still sell their own season tickets, etc., but everything for finals, everything is just going to be centralised, and I think that is the way forward. The big news out of the meeting on Thursday was Super League's gone, Championship's gone. We don't know what the new brand's going to be. IMG made a good point in their market research. They've asked a number of people, what does Super League mean to you? Very few are saying Super League Rugby League. A lot of people, in fact, I think on one of the slides there was more people who associated Super League with women's netball, and that was actually in Leeds. So Leeds have the Leeds Rhinos, and more people. I know they've got the Leeds Rhinos netball team, but they've just randomly done this as part of their marketing and presentation to show just how far down the pile Rugby League is. And there's more people associating Super League with women's netball than actually Rugby League. So that is a massive yes from me. I think that the sport does need to rebrand. There needs to be a new brand strategy. We know 360 Media, Endeavour, all sort of umbrella companies as part of the IMG brand are involved in that. And there'll be a new commercial strategy on the back of it. So don't ask me what it's going to be rebrand to, nobody knows. They've got 2 years to rebrand and look at this. And IMG made a very good point at the meeting. They said all rugby league clubs and administrators have done over the past 20 years is obsessed with changing things. We're going to change this, we'll bring in the middle eights, the super eights. We're then going to go to licensing system, which was introduced in 2009. 6 years later, they scrap it. We're bringing the middle eights. So rugby league does have this sort of habitual tendency to constantly try and change and evolve. But what IMG are saying is, no. You need to stick with one thing and work on it and build and grow that. And like they say, the first year or first couple of years of this, IMG have been honest. It might appear that it's not working, but you've got to trust IMG.
The process.
You've got to trust the process. This is a 12-year partnership between IMG and the clubs, and who knows what they're going to call the top tier, the middle tier. I hope the bottom tier stays, but as we're going to probably find out in the next couple of years, a lot of clubs are probably going to actually look and think, well, have we realistically got a serious chance of becoming a top tier club? And I'm not saying clubs are going to fold, but you might see clubs pull back, and there might be a situation where if that bottom tier does lose a couple of clubs, it's already at 11 for this coming season.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if you lose a couple, when does it not become a viable competition?
I'm less scared about that, because I think the aim will be to grow that top one and grow the second one, and it will be a case of, are you strong enough to compete in the lower end of the second tier? So if we're to do it right now, with no disrespect to West Wales, they would have to go, can we compete with those teams who are currently in what we now call the Championship? No, because they struggle to compete with teams in League One. However, a Doncaster might be like, yeah, we can, with a little bit more strength, we can compete. And I think we'll get left in the longer term, 5, 6, 7 years, with 14-14, or 15-13, and I do think there'll be I'd love to think there could be, even with a couple of new teams, there might be 36 teams who can handle being in one of those two divisions, and even if it ends up being 2 18s or whatever, but there's no reason why the NRL don't play each team twice anymore, so these big divisions, there's nothing to be scared of. I hated the loop fixtures as much as everybody did, and
it was the same.
It was just awful.
Fixtures.
I hated it, and especially when when I used to go to every game home and away, you're just spending money and you're devaluing, so I think everybody in the game agrees on that. We might end up going to the other extreme where you don't even play every team twice, but there's pros and cons of that as well. But yeah, I'd like to think anyone who is strong enough and has got enough backing will be able to get in that second tier, and it might mean we lose a couple of the smaller current League One teams, but
I think we will. I think it's inevitable. A couple will decide we're not viable.
We're
not going.
Not got enough backing.
Not
got enough potential for growth.
When the criteria comes out to be a to be a B, obviously there'll be a hell of a lot of C clubs. Realistically, clubs are going to look at it and, have we got the money? Have we got the investment to go from a C to a B? And if that answer's no, they're not going to throw money at it to be a C. And I think kind of like there will be a sort of a natural shrinkage. Hopefully, not too many clubs disappear. Because obviously in the past we've seen Mansfield Marksman, I think we've seen Prescott, we've seen Carlisle. We've seen all these wonderful clubs come and go. Toronto obviously was a bit different. But ultimately, I can't stress. I was talking to people yesterday at the Jamaica Island game. Oh, it's gone, relegation's gone, it's Super League Club. No, relegation hasn't gone. There'll still be promotion and relegation between the top tier and the middle tier.
Just not solely on on-field performance. That's the difference. There's other things to consider. It still will be a factor. And the exciting thing is, as Craig was saying the other week, at the moment, West Wales, it'd be, sadly, been the weakest team for quite a while. So most people go, no, they're doomed. However, like Craig was saying, a businessman who's been to 20 games and actually loves it and loves his rugby league, Ryan Reynolds pops over from Wrexham from a football and goes, do you know what? If there's a clear pathway, I know exactly what I need to do. Now is the time that some of those smaller clubs, investors might actually go, well, we've been hanging on for a long time because we know there's not been a real incentive to invest because we're never getting out of the Championship. Whereas now they can think, 10-year plan, we can be potentially in the top tier just by getting everything right. Even we don't have to gamble on winning a £1 million game playoff. We can get everything right, which links into what you're saying, really, isn't it, Joe?
Well, my final point I want to make on this is ultimately it's a no-brainer. IMG, they want to raise standards, they want to improve clubs' finances, the marketability of the clubs, the strategy, the brand They want rugby league out there in the mainstream media, not stuck in this sort of rugby league media bubble, which Carl Fitzpatrick at Warrington gets frustrated about. You know, get us out of that rugby league bubble, get us in that main sport sort of, and even out of the sport into the mainstream public consciousness. No way exists, but improve the stadium, improve the finances, and hopefully in 5 to 10 years' time, we can look back on this and go, wow, why wasn't this done sooner? Why weren't something like this brought in? Why were we messing around with a bit of licensing here and there, and then to the middle eights, promotion and relegation, scrapping it, bringing it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully. So where it's left with now is the clubs are still going to be talking with IMG. There might be a couple of tweaks here or there, but pretty much everything what we've said, those 7 points are locked in, and it's going to go live at the end of next year.
Yeah, exciting times.
Exciting times.
What about the last thing? Pick your name for the rebranding. We can ask people to comment on what do you think could be the best name for, and let's keep it as that there'll be 2 tiers. So we're going to have a top flight and a second flight. Let's be really positive, and all the current teams will still be able to be involved. We might have, a lot of teams in each division. Are we talking Super Rugby League? I've heard someone say something about like Rugby 13, focus on the numbers. Give us, let's chuck one out there now, and we can see if some listeners and viewers can come up with something good, because...
Well, football, you've got the Premier League. Rugby Union, you've got the Premiership. Cricket, you've got Division 1, Division 2.
Yeah.
I thought about, could we get away with copying the NRL and call it the National Rugby League? But then I thought...
You're getting a legal battle with the bloody Rugby Union.
I think... Unless they're going to come up with something totally out of the box, something left field, I'd play it safe, and I would go with the Rugby League Premiership. But then what do you call the next division? You still call it
the Rugby League Championship.
The Rugby League Championship. So you've got the Premiership and then the Championship.
I like it.
I only think the Premiership is what Rugby Union's called, isn't it? So you'd...
Not. There needs to be Rugby League.
Just confusion.
What I'm saying is. National Rugby League or Rugby League Premiership, there has to be goddamn Rugby League in that title, because Super League, what is Super League? And this is what IMG are finding out. This is why we're not getting the column inches. This is why people don't know the sport exists, because, Super League's on tonight. Yeah. Netball. It's not netball, no, it's Rugby League.
And I've been saying it for years, because my missus is heavily involved in netball. Netball is going bang, and we're going like that. That study that they've done now, unless something changes drastically, it's going to be even more extreme. And across the country, if that was in Leeds, you do that down south. Super League is netball now, so it's time for us to...
I would go Rugby League Premiership. The Rugby League Premiership, it's the Premier competition, Rugby League Premiership.
And Rugby League Championship. Yeah. I like that.
Jim, I've got one, but obviously...
Something outside the box.
No, it's really normal, actually. It's really boring. But it's against the French teams, but I think that's where they're going. I don't know, that's where they're going. So I think I'm going to go the BRL.
Alright, for British Rugby League.
Yeah.
See, I don't like that, because I definitely want to keep that French link going.
They're keeping Toulouse and Catalan.
Or the ERL, the European Rugby League.
That's a good call, because they've already said they like the idea of Dublin in there. They like the idea of maybe a Paris team.
What are you calling the second division then, if you're calling it the European Rugby League?
You know the problem we've got though with that, Joe, is we're no longer in bloody Europe, are we? So.
Well, we are. That's politically, Jim, not in.
Right, so we can have that name.
Still be called Europe.
Good.
Go on then, Jimmy.
I think I'm probably with you, really. I think it's got to be Rugby League, because Super Rugby League just sounds a bit cheesy, doesn't it? Like Super Rugby League, it's not right. So, either the Rugby League. I don't know. I think I might stick with you. I like the word Rugby League Premier. You can't really have Rugby League Elite, because we don't really want that differentiation between the top tier and the second tier. It all wants to be one, doesn't it? Right. Rugby League 1 and Rugby League 2 is a bit boring.
I want one league. I know I'll get shot for that. I want it NRL style. Let's have the second league as a builder league, like the New South Wales, where it's. I want. If I'll go I don't like the word elite. It sounds a bit daft.
Yeah,
but I want what says this is going to be a team of franchises that.
What does everyone else do though? What does Bradford do? What does Batley do? What does Halifax do? Sheffield, Widnes? What do they all do for the time being?
Build their infrastructure up, and if they can't.
What? And they don't have a league to play in?
No, I'm not. No, they just don't. You just don't call it the second. You just call it something else. Like in NRL, it's called the New South Wales. It's completely different. It's not any. It's a builder league
between the top.
No,
and
it's
the
not
second
one entity. It's
right.
There is one big league, and then the second one is for teams that are giving it a go to get there.
Right.
So instead of like I keep saying Miami. What's the new one called? That's coming. That's joining the NRL again. The Dolphins. What place is that?
Perth.
No, it's not Perth Dolphins, is it?
Brisbane. They're in Brisbane.
Oh, they're in Brisbane.
Yeah,
Is it the Brisbane Dolphins? It's not.
Yeah, they're in Brisbane. Yeah.
It might be an area of Brisbane.
Yeah, it's definitely not the Brisbane.
They're playing at Suncorp. They're in Brisbane. It's
I know, but
it's not. Yeah, but it's not called the Brisbane Dolphins.
It's for a town. I don't know what the first.
I forgot what
part
it's
is.
called. It's called
Sam will find that for us. But
the
yeah,
Dolphins.
maybe
So
in
the
a
Dolphin,
lot.
I wouldn't allow that to happen. As in, like, just a completely. I'm like a Dublin. You know what I mean? I'd say no. You can't just be a Dublin. Set up in the champion, obviously what it's now called championship, whatever you want to call it. Set up in there, and then once you win that, then you get to apply for the.
Yeah, which is what we're gonna. Yeah, I think I like them being linked. I think we've got too many big good teams to be like, no, you're totally to something else. Which is what happened a year ago with Super League and the RFL, innit? That separation, it just didn't work.
Well, I for anybody who's watched this.
Well, it didn't work because there's promotion, relegation. It all sticks together. I think.
I don't like to say I told you so, but I said the minute they broke away, it would be 3 years of pain, and it happened. Wasted money, and we've had to realign and come back, and the sport's in a mess.
Well, let's get some ideas in. See if anyone can beat.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Rugby League Premiership, Rugby League Championship. For now, I'm sticking with that, but hopefully someone can come up with something maybe a bit more modern and funky. Initials are quite good, aren't they? Getting the number 13 in there somewhere.
Yeah. I think the BRL. I think just the BRL. No,
I don't. I'm still looking for a free trip to France at some point, so I'm not alienating the French.
Cedric and Bernard are like
the ERL. Then what about the ERL?
I like that.
The ERL.
I like that because that's really good for growth, isn't it?
Because you've got.
But get some ideas in.
Initial leagues.
Best idea can have this England shirt. We'll try and get it signed
there you go.
at the end of the World Cup.
There you go. Jimmy's going to donate his England shirt.
It'll be washed and signed.
So
we'll get a brand new England shirt. You don't have to wear Jimmy's shoes. We've got plenty of shirts.
Joe's buying an English shirt for
We've
the
got
best
about
name.
5 lined up.
So this has been.
Well, second place can have a warm one then.
This has been Show Me the Money Rugby League TV. We've done a little bit on IMG. Don't forget to subscribe and look at all the other wonderful shows that we have done and put out this week, including the full 80 minutes, which is a World Cup wrap. We've also done our views on who were the players in the first week of the Rugby League World Cup, and Jimmy Mystic Mac did a bit of a betting segment. Until next week, I don't think I'm going to have a late crazy one next Sunday. I'm ready for bed.
You
now,
get to bed, Mick. Shake it off.
I'm ready for bed. I am absolutely shattered. But to everybody who watches the show and watches it religiously, and those that have joined us new and those that have been with us from the start, we will thank you. And hopefully, maybe before the season starts, we can have a meet up again and invite some of you lovely people to be there.
ERL, European Rugby League.
Craig doesn't know yet, but yeah, we'll have another curry night. I'm joking.
A live forum.
Yeah, we could do a live forum actually. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and yeah,
see you soon.
See you soon.